Potty, welcome. We are all here. Yes, look at them happy faces. Stunned. I see froze.
I think
Wait on how many seconds? He's frozen. 3 seconds into the game there. Come on, Stephen. Anyway, I tell you what, I'll move on. He'll get that sorted. Couple of house things. Don't forget, we are moving over to the Potty Mouth channel, to this channel there. So if you haven't subscribed, that would be fantastic. And it says actually there, 200, is it 207? I can't say properly. But I'm sure we're past 700 now. So please pop over there and subscribe to that channel. Probably now 2 weeks before we go over there and sort that out. And our funky Discord as well. Please pop over to our Discord and say hello. That would be fantastic. So, is he back? Is he there? Right, let's... whose phone's that making all that noise, man? Out here. Yeah, so welcome to the best garden chat show on the earth there. I was going to say on terrestrial TV, but we're not. So, yes, hello and welcome. If you want a question, capital Q, put a capital Q first, then I'll be able to search for it a lot quicker. So if you want a question answered by our esteemed guest, put it in and search, or put your little... Who is that? Is that
you, Tony?
No, it's not me. I think it's JB's laughing there, I'm sure.
It's me sending the message.
So, how is Stephen? How are you today, sir? Are you good?
I'm frozen again.
Oh. We're going to have to get the bottom. I wouldn't care. It's a great quality picture, but it's no good when you're frozen. JB standing, he's just drinking. Look, he's drinking his water.
Oh, is that a stout?
No, it's just it's a cola. I can say Coke. I'm not on the BBC. It's Coke.
Okay.
Well, JB, look at what I'm kind of drinking. So I'm joining you kind of. This is a posh orange juice. Can you see the San Pellegrino in thin cans? That's what I've got. So, yes, are you good, JB? Are you ready for another garden exploit show?
I'm very, very good. Thank you very much. I had a brilliant name for San Pellegrino that I'd never heard before the other day. Someone called it Tory Tango. Absolutely fantastic. Love that.
Oh, I'm writing that down. That is so good, that one. Right, let's see. Audrey, are you good? Are you all right?
I'm great.
Excellent. Now, yes. I heard, I'm sure I've seen a little comment of you on our thread, on our little personal thing, that you have got no rain forecast for days yet.
Oh no, at least 10 days out we have no rain coming.
Man.
And we haven't had any. Maybe a week, maybe 2.
But in all fairness, it doesn't really matter, doesn't it, not only because you turn your professional irrigation system on, and you.
No, I'm just telling you, nothing works like rainwater.
Oh, I know.
A good soak.
All the minerals, yes, coming off the land and going back up. Yep. Can we just see if this old fella is he? He's got
frozen.
All the gear, no idea.
I've got all the gear, no bloody internet. That's what it is.
Is that what's causing it? Is it?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, because what gear I've got here, and it's all sort of about as up to date and as fast as a rocket. It's our telephone lines here. They're so old and antiquated, and I don't know for certain, but I've been told there are internet lines coming from across the middle of the country, straight across the fells. They go around the valleys, and in some points they actually go under lakes, and. I think it's old aluminium lines. I think that's what it is. Of course, the better ones are the copper. But we get tons and tons of cutouts here.
Well,
it's one of the reasons why I haven't done a live cast myself, because I'd love to do a live show, but it's just so unreliable.
Well, it's funny, Steve. I was looking actually at, the adverts, or do you not get this one? But we get an EE advert where the land the plane, from the house, the 5G broadband.
Oh, yeah.
Now, and I thought we could get that here because I'm EE, and on my phone is as 3 times as fast as the house internet. I'm on the house internet here, and I know we're kind of going down rabbit hole, but I was thinking about that 5G, but we kind of get that 5G. Can you not try that one then, Steve? I'm not saying go, because I think it's a fortune, mate. I think it's probably about 50 quid a month. You know what I mean? Something silly like that.
5G? I don't know. There's 2 sheep in the field. Two sheep in the field behind us.
But I've noticed,
like mad.
I've noticed a lot of the kind of. Have you seen the masts that are going up for the 5G thing? There's about 4 or 5 boxes. Then they've got this one mast that is just. They're putting them up in like little villages, but we haven't got it yet. So
no, I've not seen one of them. I won't see one of them for another 20, 30 years.
Say, not in the Lake District. You'll not get anything kind of past there. No. Right. Should we talk about gardening then? So I tell you what, I just want to.
Oh, we must.
I just want to. You know what I mean? I want to get the elephant out of the room and just show you. Just wait a minute. I'm just going to pick this. Look at the size of that, man.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Audrey, what do you...
Wow.
What do you think of that, lass? Mother chucker, man.
I'm really impressed with that. Well, let me tell you.
To be honest, I didn't notice it. I might have picked it a little bit earlier, but I'm saying that must be 15 inches, man. Stephen, even in all your 60, 70 years of gardening, you'll not have seen... You've never seen something as big as that, have you?
Oh, they used to grow them on the allotments like that. I think is that variety Telegraph? It looks like it.
It doesn't. Honestly, I can't remember there now, but
it didn't say on the label when you bought it in the garden centre.
No, it didn't. It didn't tell us on the garden centre. But it doesn't ring a bell saying Telegraph. But I know I did write it down, but I cannot remember what it is. But I was chuffed to bits with that. I picked that today and I thought, I'm showing this crowd. I'm getting in first there and showing this crowd.
No, it's a good cucumber, mate. Good cucumber.
What I want to start off with then is JB. JB is very happy. JB had a harvest, like a potato harvest, which... To be honest, JB was out of this world, and mine has been pitiful of late. But I've never seen you, JB, as happy as you know what I mean? Because I always think this JB is our kind of stunt man. If it's gonna fail, JB's there at the front trying it out. You know what I mean? But now,
bless.
And I seen Steve had a little note in our kind of little chat thing about traditional, because Steve, I think you're maybe wobbling with the bucket system as well. So, JB, tell us how on earth you got that many potatoes.
It's literally just so I went kind of. I just looked up the correct spacing basically and followed that. And that's not normally what I do. I just kind of bung in whatever I've got. That's what I did last year, and there were just way too many. It was too dense. So I had quite a nice crop, but all the potatoes were kind of competing, and they were really small. So this year, I cannot remember what the spacing is. Something like 4 foot between each one.
4 foot, right?
No, is that right?
It's 12 inches, 15 inches, and 28 inches.
Right.
He just knows it off by heart, doesn't he?
You know me, bloody hell, Grandad. What a drummed it into him. So is that what? Did you put any feed, JB? Anything like?
Yeah, just a little bit of the standard bloodfish bone meal. Just literally kind of sprinkled it in the trench. A little bit of compost as well. Not a lot. Probably could have had a lot more compost in there, but just stuck them in the ground and they're away. And that's how I've done it for 3 years. And generally, I've just seemed to get pretty lucky with the soil for potatoes. I don't know what it is, and there's just something. I say it literally every time when it comes to spuds. I just love the simplicity of them. You just stick them in the ground and they go. You know, you don't need to fuss over them or anything like that. I just love it. It's just brilliant.
What about watering then, JB? Were you heavy on the watering or?
Normally, I don't water at all in the beds, but this year I did because it's just been so dry. It's so dry on the south coast. So I did give them a couple of really, really good soakings, and I watered them in quite heavily when they first went in the ground as well.
And I watched the video, JB. I can't remember off time. Did you plant them? Did you say April?
Yeah, April 6th. So I had 2 lots. I think the first was April 6th, and then the others were probably around the 20th, something like that. So I've not dug up the second lot yet. But because these were all main crop, that's quite early, April 6th. I think, back of the packet, April 15th was kind of when you're meant to start, and then into May. I thought, just give it a go. Give it a go. Because I don't really love the earlies. I'm not such a fan. I love a main crop. I love a roast. I love a chip.
Right.
So
I've
got them all.
Tell us what's because I quite like say second earlies. I do like a Charlotte, and I know Steve's kind of grown Charlottes this time as well. But what stops you liking the earlies or the second earlies?
They're just much
Can't make
better
chips.
suited to a boiled. Yeah, exactly. You can't make chips. they don't. I mean, they roast up okay. It's just not the same. You can't beat a proper roast with the crispy skin and just the fluffy middle. It's like one of my all-time favorite things to grow, and it's so simple. It's so easy. I love it.
But you mentioned as well, just before we kind of jumped on, JB, that a couple of them have got this thing in the middle.
Yeah.
What's it called again?
It's something called Hollow Heart, and I've got it really mild, and I didn't actually put any pictures in that video. But it's just a slight kind of dark patch in the middle, and I kind of went away and I was a bit like, oh God, because the first one I cut into had it, but it's really minor. You just cut out a tiny little bit, and it's caused by kind of inconsistent growing kind of conditions. So if it's getting really warm and then quite cold, or really wet and then really dry, that can kind of cause the potatoes to grow really quickly, and they get a bit of kind of like malformation in the middle. But you just cut it out and it's fine. And it kind of made sense that they were getting that with them going in a little bit too early. So probably it does make sense to maybe plant them a little later if you're on the main crops.
Right. Because I did watch as well Steve, sir. I did watch your I think it was like a harvest kind of thing. But I just want to draw people's attention to this photograph. That little hole there is nearly as bad as mine. That was like one bucket of a hole. Now I know, granted, you got some better buckets of potatoes, but are you going now? Did I hear? Have I getting this right? Where you're saying, or maybe wobbling with buckets growing, and like JB went traditional in the ground. Did I hear right that you're thinking, buckets might not be as good as what everyone says they are?
Well, it's a little bit half and half. I think when I very first saw the bucket method, it was with Allotment Dan, and he was growing Sarpomeras, and they were brilliant, and you get a really good harvest out of the buckets. So naturally, I bought some buckets the next year, and I did it, and it worked for me. It was superb again. But the problem is when it comes to the other varieties, for me, it doesn't seem to work as well. And I've got like half a dozen other negative issues with it. I mean, the cost of the compost for starters, but there's certain little niggles along the way, which is just making me think maybe I should go back to growing those in the ground and just growing the Sarpos in the buckets. Because what I do is, people get fed up with me with the Crimson Crush tomatoes and the Sarpomera potatoes. I grow those two as standbys. They're my standbys if we get blight. So I've always got a crop. Anything else is, over and above that. But if they all get blight, I've still got a crop. That's my idea with it.
Right. Audrey, are you pulling potatoes at the moment? Or have you got potatoes?
No, I'm not. I only have one variety in this year, and it got in kind of late, so I won't be pulling them until maybe mid-September.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay, I have a question for all three of you.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask this on behalf of me and anyone who's not a UK gardener. is when you talk about main crop potatoes, do you mean more like a russet potato, like a baking potato? Or I'm not sure I know the difference when you guys talk about those.
Go on, and Stephen, I'll let you.
Steve, I see a hand.
Yeah, it's basically the cropping, the point from planting to harvest. With first earlies, we go with about 12 weeks. Anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks is a first early. Anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks is a second early, and anything after that is a main crop. So it's a length of time thing with that.
Okay, so here we would call that an early potato, a mid-season potato, and a late season potato.
Right,
There we go.
right, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought maybe it was a style.
So
okay, great.
The ones you've put in then, Audrey, are they late potatoes, which you would use for,
they're actually mid-season.
Right.
But I didn't get them until like early June. We were having such a late, weird spring. A lot of these companies will not send out seed potatoes until they're sure there's no frost in the area.
Right.
So I didn't get them till late May.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, I would have had mine. That's quite.
Still do. Yeah.
And what September did you say? Mid-September, is that not going to be like pretty chance of a frost down your way or not? Or
oh no, I'm not going to get a frost till late October.
Right. Oh, so you're covered there, so you will get a nice crop.
Yes.
Yeah. And what have you ever used pots before, Audrey, or is this just a kind of something?
I only have used pots.
Oh, right.
I have no desire to dig in trenches to look for potatoes. I'm just telling you. And I actually got even smaller buckets this year because I want my garden apprentices' kids to dig for the potatoes because they would think that's just the best. So they're smaller, so they can dump them and just dig through them and have a great time.
Mm-hmm. You've hit the nail there, Audrey, for me, because Steve, you know that we're on about like say traditional there, but the thought of what JB's having to do, like to trench them. Do you know what I mean? I've done it all, kind of trench them, put them all up, bank them up, then bank them up again, then go out and dig them. When you can just like lift a bucket, exactly what you did, Steve, put it in a wheelbarrow.
None of us are quite as young as you could be anymore either. So that kind of changes how much digging you really want to do.
I guess, Steve, that's a good point then. Are you that desperate for, say, a great crop, or would you sacrifice a great crop for an easy crop? Like, I mean, physical ease lifting. Because, to be honest, are you the oldest boy on this little team? I think you might. You know what I mean? I think you might be. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure about that.
So, Steve,
I think sometimes people do that for ease as well. I mean, it is a lot easier, and I like that ease. Don't get me wrong, but I do think I haven't fully committed to my full reasons for why I'm not overly keen on the buckets. So next year I'll grow in buckets, and probably the year after. But that year after I'll probably also grow in the ground as well, and do a taste test and comparison. I think the taste goes a little bit. I think there's more work involved with watering with buckets. I think overall I have a preference for them being in the ground, and that's possibly, and I don't know, possibly because that's the way I've always done it.
Now that you, now that you mentioned it, Steve, it was through I think Dan and his pots, and that variety potato, and I've never actually used that. I don't think in a pot, so I've always just put like say Charlottes in. Then I think this year I've got pink fir apples and Desiree in. So I've never actually used it. How do you pronounce it? Sapomira.
Sapomira, yeah.
Yeah, I've never actually tried them. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not sure even what kind of taste them. But I don't know if I've even grown them. You know what I mean? So that's a point. But the thought of trenching and like you say for the young lads, you know what I mean? Young people.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't think it's not that hard to trench. I don't think. If your ground is dug over anyway, that is if you grow it in soil. your ground should already be dug over, and it's just a case of moving the soil around to make a trench. And I normally do it with a rake, make a trench with a rake, put them in, rake over the top, rake up a big hill, and then do the same to earth them up.
Right. Oh, no, see, that's where me and you differ a little bit, Steve. I mean, and it's just kind of naive probably with me, but I'd dig a trench. Do you know what I mean? As a kind of good, say, proper trench. Maybe, I'm not saying like a foot deep, but a proper, like, you know, if you're going to bury your polytunnel plastic,
yeah,
it's that kind of a trench I'm putting in, and I put the potato kind of.
Well, I get the same with the rake. Get the same depth with the rake. It's just got sloping sides. But if you think about it, because you've raked that sides out as well, when it comes to dig it, you're just putting your fork in and lifting the potatoes out through the soil because it's already sifted and loose. But I mean, it also goes back to I was using my rotavator then as well a lot more. So I'd run my rotavator across the ground, use my rake up the soil, put the spuds in, and then rake them to earth them up. The soil was always loose, so it was no effort to do really.
I just want to apologise. I just want to apologise to the no dig brigade here when he said the word rotavator. It breaks me heart. I'm sorry. It just
never have a
There's a lot of no diggers going, oh, rotavator.
Have you guys ever tried the Ruth Stout method with potatoes?
Or do you have to explain?
I've never tried it.
I've seen it, but never tried it.
Okay, yeah. Now that we're talking here, I think I might try that next year, because you really just lay the potatoes on the ground, and you heap up hay or straw over them, and you just let them grow through that. And so some go in the dirt a little bit, but most of them stay right on the soil surface.
Mm-hmm.
I think Zora just made a video on that this year.
Yeah.
She's had some reasonable results with that.
Yeah, and it, again, is not going to be digging down 12 inches to get them. They seem to be right on top.
The potatoes, the new potatoes, Audrey, am I getting this right, are just lying on the surface of your soil, but your straws hiding them from daylight.
Yes, and you just keep piling straw or grass clippings or whatever you have over the top.
Right.
And the potatoes just grow right through that. And then you pull the straw back and you find your potatoes. Yeah. So that might be worth a try next year. I might do that.
Yeah, it's meant to be really good. Liz, in her book, Grounded, as well, she does some really interesting comparisons of, using straw, hay, grass clippings and wood chip as well, because they all had quite different results. And I think hay or straw is the best. And I think this year she's done it with chicken manure and like duck bedding and that kind of stuff. And she's had a really good crop.
I was going to say that'd be awesome.
Right.
Wow.
We'll have a little question there. Let me just put myself there. Oh, by the way, have you none of yous? I had to point it out to JB. Have you noticed?
There are a few in the chat as well.
Have you noticed the bloody sign there, man? Look at it, man. The Potty Mouth Garden. I went all the way to Bristol for that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Looks great.
And to drop his son off.
It's very professional.
Right. Shan.
I cleaned up my desk even in honor of that.
And I'm actually not sitting on cushions now. I've actually moved that whole backdrop down about 1.5 foot as well. It's now kind of a little bit levelish with the telly. That was a few words of choice words there, Audrey. Cover your ears.
I can't imagine.
Shan is asking, do you notice climate change? Is it affecting your allotment? Stephen, let's jump straight to you then. Weather, climate change?
Yeah, it's definitely affecting me. I mean, my temperatures have been awful here. But if you think about it, a week ago, we were sat here mopping our brows with towels because we were absolutely melting last week, weren't we? But this year, my seasons, I've managed to recover and get some crops out, but it's not where they should be because my temperatures since spring have been awful. Really, really, really down. Whereas the rest of the country the temperatures seem to be elevated. So it's affecting me.
JB asked where have I got that little order? JB asked me about, the weather this morning, because I think I was just showing JB this. It was sunny, bright blue sky, sunny for me. And then all of a sudden I turned round and I had to kind of stop the car and just video it. It's never stopped since that. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, which is great for the allotment. But, you know what I mean? It's just when you've got like massive sunshine, rain, massive, like cold wind. It's just like you seem to be like fighting all the time. But again, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You know what I mean? Right. So, Audrey, have you noticed? Because your weather seems to be, it's quite funny to talk about your weather, because your weather's like freezing cold. 2 or 3 days without any air conditioner or heater,
Yes.
and then it's like red hot. Are you noticing it's getting harder?
Yes, it's getting. This year has been a struggle because I think most of my brassica bed is either bolted or that nothing's heading up. It's like it's just. I think it's because of the weather, because I've done nothing different.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm starting everything again, and I'm hoping for a fall harvest because there's nothing coming. I've got something, but the brassicas have been very, very hit by this.
Audrey, your tip, I don't know when it was, about taking seeds and sowing them indoors because the weather's too. Someone mentioned that, and I kind of on the channel, someone mentioned it in the comments, and I kind of thought. That's what I mentioned, but I did mention that this was Audrey's tip, because someone, obviously a few people are just struggling, trying to sow a seed in this weather. You water them and they're dried out within like an hour or so.
Yeah, my lettuce that I direct sowed, I think I have 2 coming up, and I direct sowed a boatload. So it's all inside now. I've got 5 flats going inside again. It's almost like it's April. Once over again, but I'm gonna try. We'll see what we get.
What about the South, JB?
It's an interesting question, because I've not been. Well, this is 3rd year of gardening for me, so I'm all still fairly new to it. It's not like I've got everything in my head like Steve. Exactly when stuff should be happening when, but it's just so variable now, isn't it? Some of the weather, every season feels like it could. Present some challenges, or it could be amazing. And I think that kind of variability is probably a symptom of climate change. So it can make things a little more difficult, for sure.
But on the flip side, Stephen, I'll ask you this as well. Do we not complain about the weather every year? And it's always like every year, it's the hardest year we've ever had. It's a bloody nightmare. You know what I mean? But, so...
You're not having a hard year, Tony.
Oh, to be honest, Audrey,
give me a break. You're like, you got the golden touch this year.
on certain things, like Steve, when he pulled his potatoes, my potatoes were even worse than that. Do you know what I mean? But I think I pulled the wrong bucket. But even if I left them, like, say, another 2 months and watered every day, I wouldn't get a crop like JB's. Do you know what I mean? So I'm thinking, I wonder if I should just kind of do a bit of, I like that idea, mind you, Audrey, of like not much work. You know what I mean? Like put them on the top, lay them on the top.
I'm thinking, well, next year that might really work.
And just going back to that, them potatoes on the ground, is that the same thing, Steve? Like the same kind of distance apart?
I would think so, yeah. I mean, there was a study done a few years ago. It came out quite inconclusive, but they reckoned that potatoes, and you're going to need a fair bit of leniency with me here, but they reckon the potatoes talk to each other. They know where each other are, and if they sense one close to it, they won't grow as big. So somebody did this test where he put them 3 foot apart. I knew he'd be laughing.
I know. I'm kind of giggling too. Like, what?
He had these potatoes, sort of 5 potatoes planted 3 to 6 foot apart, and he got over 125 pound of potatoes from them, from five seed tubers.
Right.
Wow.
Because they weren't talking to each other.
Headset on them so he could hear what they were saying.
I don't know. I didn't look that deep. I just saw the report.
Buddy, I'm here. You get yourselves over there. You go.
But it's something else that I've noticed. Once you've dug up a row of potatoes, you know what you're doing, and you dig up row after row, year after year. But always, to me, it always seems to be that the two right at either end of the row are always the better ones. You seem to get a bigger yield from the plants at the end of a row. And I wondered if that's because there isn't one on the other side of it.
But then doesn't all that not just like that doesn't come into the equation when you're using buckets?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Don't you? You normally put more than one seed potato in a bucket, don't you? Or is it just one?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well. But just, I was kind of saying Steve had a bad crop of potatoes. There's only one bucket. But what he did have, look at that bad boy there. Now that is, Steve, am I right in thinking that's a banana shallot?
It is indeed, and it's one of the smaller ones.
Man.
Oh, wow.
That is just like awesome. Do you know what I mean? The kind of...
It's just gone off the scale this year. All my alliums, my garlic, my elephant garlic, those onions, and I've got some Bedfordshire champ onions and a few ailses, and they're all absolutely phenomenal this year. And I might reveal live on Potty Mouth a secret. I might.
Interesting.
You won't buy them from the shop?
No, I just don't. I just haven't watered them at all. I have not watered. This year I've taken an approach to turn my hose pipe off and water by watering can. And with the amount of beds I've got, I've got 20 of those beds now. I don't want to be watering all them by hand. I'm trying to use less water, trying to do the right thing, as everybody is.
Well,
so
I can't work that out because I've got my spring onions, Steve. Some of my spring onions are looking like desperately that they need water. Do you know what I mean? So how can, if you, I guess you haven't had this kind of sunshine like say JB's had down south. So there is that kind of
dry.
You know what I mean? But like
we get more rain here. We get more rain.
Yeah.
That is.
Yes, that's helpful. Yes.
Do it.
That shallot is bigger than most of my onions this year.
I've had one.
What was that, JB?
I said that shallot is bigger than most of my onions.
Oh, I know. It's just.
It is crazy.
I'm not joking either. Like genuine, it's looking good.
So, well, actually, JB, no, don't now. Come on, this is your harvest. Is this right? That's it.
Oh, yeah. See what I've done there.
I know what you've done. There. You put all the nice ones. I do that.
Yeah, to make it look better.
Yes.
So, decent quantity, but yeah, a lot of mine were very, very small.
But I still think, and I've mentioned this a couple of times where, like, it doesn't matter what size onion, I bring them all home because even like a little one. Do a salad. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But I'm hoping if I could get anywhere near my banana shallots, mine are not even anywhere like bulbing up at the moment. They look nice, green, healthy, but bloody hell, Steve. Come on, let's give them a round of applause. Right. What's this? JB, what's this?
What's the bloody point?
Well, they didn't fit in the trug. I thought that trug might break, so I had to use one of the backup bags.
Do you know what I noticed though, Jimmy? It's like I'm going to make sure I get it all because so they'll not be able to take the mickey out if there's any more.
Oh yeah,
but it's a Hessian. It's a Hessian, like you know what I mean, kind of. It's not a plastic. It's a Hessian you can get from Lidl. So, how many onions did you get then, JB?
Do you know? I've not counted them, so that was literally yesterday.
And is that
I've not counted the weight or anything.
Right, is that your full harvest in there? Is it?
Yeah, that's the whole lot. So I kind of had one main onion bed, 1.2 meters long, 3 rows of onions, just fully loaded, kind of intercrop with some lettuce, and then throughout the rest of the plot, I was kind of just doing a little row here and there to see, how they would be affected by white rot. And interestingly, despite most of them being quite small and it not being a great harvest, some of them were really appalling in different beds. Most of them were white rot free. I would, out of everything, there was like 5% had white rot. So they've just not grown for other reasons. Probably the lack of rain, the heat, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
am I right in thinking if you pull an onion early, Audrey, Steve, that white rot doesn't set in as quick? If it's only when you leave it a long time? Because I noticed there, JB, with your onions, because normally I'll leave mine till my onion actually falls over. Do you know what I mean? The green stalk tips over. Now I don't think I'm going to do that this year because I just want to hopefully, not get white rot on every bloody onion I've got. Have I just made this up, or is that a kind of a gardening law?
Yeah,
I think
Go on, Audrey.
Yeah, I wait till mine flop over.
Yeah.
Unless I'm desperate for the space to plant something else, then I might pull them. But they bulb better if you wait till they flop over.
Mm-hmm. I'm just worried in case I'm encouraging, the white rot. So that's why I'm thinking I mean, they're a nice size. Do you know what I mean? They're a kind of decent size, and I don't think they'll bulb up anymore. It's just they haven't. Maybe ones went over, so that's kind of enough for me. I'm thinking I might just lift them. I don't know.
Mine were all over.
I don't know, to be honest.
It's early.
Mm-hmm. What, Steve?
I don't think I've read anything or know anything about the white rot and how it sets in, but I know it's in the soil. So I assume if your onions are in contact with it, they're going to get white rot, whether they've been in there for a long time or not. I would have thought it just might take longer for it to show once you've harvested them. I don't know.
Right, we've got a good.
That's it.
Sorry, GB, go on.
I was going to say, so I think it's just a process where, if you've got an onion that is, subject to white rot and it is starting to take effect, then the sooner you take it out of the soil and cut that bit off, the less time it has to spread throughout the onion, essentially. I think that's just the kind of the thinking behind taking the harvest early.
Right, well, I still think I'm going to pull them just a touch earlier than the norm. We've got.
I was also one more thing. I was also reading the other day on the RHS site. Many gardeners sort of recommend that you bend your onions over before you're getting ready to lift them. Well, apparently they don't recommend that now, and I didn't see a reason. So if anyone knows that, I'd be interested.
Right.
But the other piece of advice that used to go around many years ago was that you put a fork underneath them and lift them slightly, leave them in the ground, lift them slightly to break the roots. So I don't know if that advice is still around, but I wouldn't bother doing that. You don't want to damage the roots at all.
What's the reason then, Steve? Is that to stop to kind of bend the stalks? Is that to kind of stop the growing process? Is it?
When people bend the onions over, that's to stop the growing, and everything that's in the leaves then falls back into the bulb or something. Can't quite remember, to be honest. But
no, I
think it's something.
What I was going to say is that's why I normally leave them to fall over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I wonder why, whoever, what did you say there, the RHS do it a little bit earlier and almost force that leaf to bend over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a strange one. But I say definitely don't break the roots on your plants because that will affect its storage time and quality as well.
Right. There's some top tips for you, everyone. There we go.
Very good.
Don't forget, at the end of this show, we have the tip of the week by each of our esteemed guests. Audrey hasn't got one yet, so you get your thinking cap on, Audrey.
Frantically.
Yes.
I'm thinking frantically now.
Guess who's got 3 just to be on the safe side? Yeah. Right, now we've got a good question from Rachel. Sarah. What got you into gardening, and what was the first thing you grew? Now, this is a question for everyone, and I guess I'll kick it off. It was my mum that got me into gardening. She's always been a good plants woman there. And looking back, it's either potatoes or tomatoes. I think it was probably the tomatoes. You know what I mean? For me, that was the first thing I kind of grew in anger and brought them from seed right the way through. And that's probably what kind of clinched it for us and made us fall in love with gardening. Just a packet of seeds to a greenhouse full of tomatoes. It's just an awesome sight, and I've just clipped my the leaves off so you can kind of see a full kind of year's harvest on my tomatoes, and it's a magical sight. Do you know what I mean? You kind of think, yes. So that's probably for me. It was my mum definitely got me into the gardening and probably tomatoes or maybe potatoes, but I think it's probably it's been a few years probably tomatoes. Now I'm guessing it was the old fella's granddad that got this young lad into gardening.
Yeah, definitely. Well, both my granddads really, because my granddad on my dad's side, he had an allotment, and then later in his life, he had a big veg patch in his back garden and a greenhouse there. So both granddads got me into it really. As for growing the first crop, I can't remember really what I grew. Probably the first year that I was with my granddad in the garden, learning from him, I wasn't allowed to touch this and I wasn't allowed to touch that. And don't look at this and stop messing around with that stick, So it was a lot of that. I had to basically stand at the end of the row and watch. But that's how I learned so much,
It's funny, Steve, because like you say, I remember my granddad didn't have an allotment, but he had a big garden. And every time I went there, he obviously was growing all the veg and everything like that. But my kind of focus was always on just like a patch of the garden to dig a hole. To dig a hole, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter, you know what I mean? I just wanted to dig a hole as deep as I could, up to me chest, up to me, you know what I mean? I had to dig this hole, and then my granddad would have to fill it back in. Do you know what I mean?
I was never allowed to do that, and I had to keep quiet as well while my granddad was trimming the lawn. He had one of those edging irons for trimming the lawn that everyone used, the little sort of half moon thing. And every year, twice a year, he would trim an extra ½ inch off the lawn just so his veg patch at home grew a bit bigger. He was a bugger for it. And I had to keep quiet while he was doing it. I'll never, ever forget that. Brilliant.
JB, what got, because you, like you say, you've just kind of took up gardening like the last 3 years or something. So what made you get into it then? You know what I mean? And obviously, you've seen some cool looking folks, like doing the garden and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There's kind of, there's some inspirations kicking around. You know what I mean? Garden. But what, apart from the the YouTube celebrities, what made you get into gardening?
Well, there's no prizes for guessing this one, but it's chili peppers. It's chili peppers were the first proper, like my dad was growing chili peppers and he just gave me a plant. And that was it. That was the start of that story. Kind of growing up, my parents had a tiny little greenhouse in the back garden, and they used to do like some strawberries and tomatoes, and that was kind of it. They had an allotment for a little bit, but nothing really captured me like that first chili plant. It was a red habanero that my dad gave me. It might have been a plant, or it might have just been the seeds. I can't remember, but I remember having it on the windowsill in a tiny house where we had no space for it. And then, I slowly started spreading it into the garden and built this ramshackle home for chili peppers. And they just captured my kind of imagination, and they're just they're so exciting, and so unusual in the variety that you can get. And
so I guess as well then the chili peppers were just like the stepping stone to get into an allotment yourself.
Yes,
was it?
exactly. Yeah, I mean the allotment was actually my partner Jess's idea. She put us on a waiting list way before. I was like, no, it's too soon, we're not ready, we weren't settled, didn't know where we were going to be.
Kids. No, it's not ready yet for that.
And then a few months later we get a letter from the council and they're like, yeah, we've got a plot for you. And I'm like, I didn't want one this soon. But just got stuck in and absolutely loved it, and I'm very thankful to her for taking the step and actually putting our names down, because otherwise I'd probably still be I still wouldn't have one.
What were you going to say, Steve?
I think you needed an allotment plot though for the compost heap to put the bloody chilies on.
Yes.
Audrey, then this would be interesting to kind of find out from you, where your inspiration came from in the early days.
Early days was probably elementary school, so this was like I was 8 or 10 8 or 10. I remember planting a packet of radishes, and they came up beautifully. And I didn't like radishes because I was 8 or 10. But I thought, wow, this is really cool. You put in seeds and you get this stuff. But it wasn't until I was older and I learned that my grandfather, maternal grandfather, his entire front yard was roses. And my family's from Scotland, as many of you know. Uh, and I thought that was the coolest thing. So I started rose gardening. So that's really what started me. And then I thought, well, if I can do this, because roses are quite finicky to take care of well, I thought, well, I can plant some stuff in the ground. So that's really, I'm kind of self taught. Like, I just loved it. I turned my entire backyard of our first home into a garden, and we had all kinds of things growing in there. So
There we
that's,
go. I
and
never
I
knew
was
great.
hooked.
that, Audrey. I never knew
And
that.
then I
to
was
be honest.
hooked. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
What a great question. That was a good one.
Get to all going there. There's a little question. One sec. Elizabeth said, let's put this up there. Can cabbages be grown in a greenhouse for a faster crop? A faster crop over winter? Stephen.
Yes, definitely. All your brassicas, and in about a month's time, what I tend to do is I will where my tomatoes are growing now, I will plant in between them the small seedlings of cabbages and kales and collies in between them. So as the tomatoes are finishing off, they're already growing in the space to get that going.
And when do you expect with that then, Steve? Because I've never grown a cabbage or a collie in the polytunnel. When would you expect to harvest that then?
Well, anytime really. I mean, I know you're. I've seen you do it a few times where you've gone to the plot. You just want a bit of something green, so you'll take an outer leaf off a cabbage.
Mm-hmm.
You can always do that,
Mm-hmm.
or you can go and take the tops off your Brussels sprouts if you're growing them in your polytunnel. So there's always something. If you plant a good deal of varieties, like your chard does incredibly well in a polytunnel. You'll always have something to pick at, and there are no rules. You don't have to pick a cabbage when it's this big. Pick it when it's this big.
Mm-hmm.
Take it home.
See, I love your kind of methodology, Steve. It's just like you just do not stick with like a rule, because you end up kind of missing a good harvest, or like not even getting a harvest, or sow. Doesn't matter when to sow, just sow. Doesn't matter.
Just sow. Just get on with it.
And
it doesn't matter
when to harvest.
Why do you want to? Why do you want to constrict yourself? The world puts enough constrictions on you anyway. You're out in your garden; it's your space. Do what the heck you want. And why shouldn't you sow? Why shouldn't you sow cucumbers in November? You know they're going to fail, but you can sow them if you want to. You can try, and this is the thing.
That's just like it chokes us up, Stephen. Chokes us up there. Well done. Well
He's
said.
a rebel,
Yes,
isn't
well
he?
said.
He's a gardening rebel.
It took us a little while to get that there, kind of.
Oh dear, I'm blushing.
Now, JB mentioned as well, and we'll just hit this topic. JB had I was kind of mentioning JB's always like our fall guy, where if something's going to go wrong or something, it's like. But JB, you got and I've never seen this I've never even seen it on pictures, to be honest. You had a certain caterpillar munching on your tomatoes. Now, you've only got 4 tomatoes. You were picking tomatoes because they were an ugly-looking one the last time. You didn't like it because it was an ugly-looking tomato. You wanted to get rid of that. So what's this with the kind of these caterpillars?
Yeah, so I was really interested to see it in the chat as well. How many other people have found this? Because I was really shocked to find these tiny little green caterpillars on my tomatoes, and they were munching away not only on the leaves, but I saw they were actually going into the tomatoes. Like you say, I've only got 4, so I was like, bloody hell,
What's the bloody
I didn't think we
bloody
had.
point?
So I've heard of what's the bloody point? I've heard of the tomato hornworm in the US. That's like a really big thing. It's like a massive kind of hawk moth caterpillar, big chunky scary thing. Yeah. And yes, I was Googling, and I found out it's something called the bright line brown eye moth. And that's the caterpillars that are on my thing. And I think they're quite restricted to the south coast.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah. So you want to be like, but that's one of the things with climate change. As it starts to kind of move up the country, a lot of species are moving north as well. So, if you're a bit lower down the country, just double check your tomatoes. Make sure that they're not infested with a little nasty, nasty caterpillar.
I guess JB, with that, the ones that were burning your tomatoes, did you just sling them? Did you? Because
I did. I slung them.
I wouldn't be able to
I like to. I always hope that there's a little robin that follows me around a lot. So I've got like a little kind of bare patch where there's wood and stuff, and that's where I chuck a lot of the insects. Then he comes and has a go at them.
So Audrey, what are yours called over there? You've got because you've got some nasty thing that burrows into your tomatoes.
Well, there's the hornworm, which looks exactly like you would think it would with that name. It's like got a dragon, like these horrible fang things. They're easier to find at night with like a flashlight or a white light, because then they come out at night and they can decimate a plant. Now, I have not been plagued with those, but I know a lot of people have. And once you get them, it seems like they hang around, I guess is my point. Like most pests, if they find a place they like, they kind of hang out there. But they're nasty, and wow, I would just, I don't like creepy little things like that.
Well, I know
some gardeners, so I would just pick them off, and I'm like, really? I just would take the whole plant and put it in the compost pile.
Oh no!
He's only got 4 tomatoes. Do you really?
I can't afford it.
I have a few more than that. I do have a few more than that. But,
Steve, we don't, touch wood, get plagued with anything like that. You know what I mean? I guess for us, it's the main worry is blight for your tomatoes. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, occasionally I've seen holes in tomatoes, and I've never really sussed on. I've got this sort of thing with pests that I ignore them mostly. Let Mother Nature deal with them. And normally it just leaves me alone. Too bad. But now and again I'll get 1 or 2 holes in tomatoes, and peppers seem to be the worst. They seem to go for me. I don't know. Again, I don't know what's eating them, because there's never anything inside. It's probably mice or something.
Right, because I do get something nibbling the pepper leaves now and again, but never the fruit. But I've only got chilies this year, so I haven't
compost them.
I haven't bothered. We need to get you.
I just heard today that allium leaf miner has inadvertently been brought over here to the U.S., like in the Philadelphia area. I can't wait if that's coming my way, because I've never had that. So, yeah, we need another virus or something.
Yeah, another pest. Yeah.
Or bug, whatever pest.
You don't want that with all the garlic and stuff you've planted, either.
Exactly. I'm like, I've got a flashing beam going, here, come here.
Look at this. And there you go. Audrey sent us this photograph. Nice. That's a lovely sight. So, Audrey, have those garlic, are they just freshly harvested, or have you dried them out a little bit?
No, they're drying right now.
In your box method?
I can't remember. But these were beautiful. These are called Italy Hill Giant, and these I can't get my hand around the bulbs. They're so big.
Oh wow!
These were just so. I think these might be my go-to in the future.
Right?
Because
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, gorgeous.
What
hardneck?
Hardneck. You see, I'm not going to go for hardnecks this year.
I know. I just can't give up the scapes. I just love scapes so much. That, yeah. I can't.
We've got a question. I found a good question there from Lee France, as mentioned. I've planted pak choy for the first time, and the leaves have gotten brown blotches on them. What is wrong with them? Audrey, now I'm sure you might be able to help with brown patches on pak choy.
Trying to think.
Could that not just be like, say, maybe water, like burning, when you've got to water them in the...
It could be like a bug nibbling on the back, because they're still part of the brassica family, so you could have some of the white butterfly cabbage thingy caterpillars. It might be, watering. I don't know. I think it might more be burning. I don't know what the weather's been like where you are, but if you
Hot.
water early or
Damned
late,
hot. JB, I finished me Tory Tango. I love that name, Tory Tango. Well, we got Nair Audrey. Is that just gin?
coffee.
Coffee.
It's still 2 in the afternoon here. Sorry to disappoint. Yes.
Stephen, we're coming up to the end of July. We're getting into August. Oops, I've done it again there, JB. It's a good job you weren't doing anything nasty. August planting. A little topic I've got there, Steve. August planting. What can I plant, or what can people plant in August or sow in August?
Oh God, loads of stuff. All your brassicas, all your winter brassicas, and all your salad stuffs. Basically, that'll be enough for most people. I'll have a video out by the end of the week on that of everything that I'm planted physically.
So when you say brassica, are you seeing the whole, almost like they say, the whole spectrum of brassicas? From say cauliflowers, cabbages,
Yes,
Brussels,
everything. Anything I can find, because what I'm looking for now, because seeds are so cheap and you've got soil or compost anyway, I'm just looking to sow anything I can. I want plants so that when the crops come out of the tunnel or out of the bed, certain beds could be filled up with plants that I've got already. I've got a supply there, then I can make a choice. I can see what's growing. Like, for instance, earlier this year, as you know, my cauliflowers were atrocious and I ripped them out. And my Calabrese crop was rubbish. But if I know that, then I can go to my supply of plants in the polytunnel and replace them and put some more out or grow them in another tunnel. So I'm not having bare soil and I'm having something working. And it doesn't matter, even if I can't eat it, I can give it away. And I've got the fun of, because my main thing, and I keep saying this, is that I love growing from seed and seeing it grow into a big thing. And that still excites me after over 50 years of gardening. I still get a massive buzz growing from seed, seeing it grow, and then being able to eat it or put it in a vase. It doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, yeah. I think it's just nearly another. You're almost tearing me up every time you. It's like,
I'm sorry.
I'm just seeing if there's anything else you can. Is it too late to sow pea seeds in the ground? Ian's asking. Is it too late to sow pea seeds in the ground? Now I know, Steve, you say just sow it all the time, but there must come a point when things won't come to fruition and like you'll not get a pea because it's too late in the season. There must come a time.
I think if you look at the seed packets, I seem to remember this from a couple of years ago, that one particular seed I had said end of July was the sort of last chance. But again, with seed packets, I've always said this again about seed packets, is that manufacturer, that retailer wants you to get the best possible results from that seed. So he puts the growing window in there where he knows he can guarantee you results. So he might say the end of July and that's it, that's the end of it. But you can still sow them a couple of weeks into August. It just might be a bit of a patchy germination or a patchy harvest. But just go for it and then protect them if you need to, or grow them in a greenhouse.
Well, that's what, like you say, I think it's for me, the excitement definitely now, is like, getting friends with Steve and, Audrey and JB is this winter period is like the holy grail. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of, we all kind of aspire to get veg through that winter period. For me, the holy grail, there's two. It's just getting veg into the polytunnel through the winter months and trying my fucking best to grow a bloody Chinese cabbage. That's the pinnacle of my gardening career. If I can grow a Chinese cabbage, Do you know what I mean? I'll give up now, and I'll.
Well, I've sown some Chinese cabbage now, and you'll get them through the autumn. That's not really a problem.
Yeah.
The thing that I've always tried to do, and I've always wanted to do, is grow them for Christmas, because then it's Christmas where you have a big meal, and then the next day you want a salad. There are lots of winter lettuce around, but not many of them are very crunchy, and that's why I want that Chinese cabbage. Because if you get them nice and small, they are crunchy, and you can put them in a salad. So
But is that, Steve?
that's been my thing.
Because I just sowed, or I just planted actually from the garden centre some radicchio. Now, does that not kind of? Do you not plant that to get that kind of crunchy feeling? Because I've seen as well a recipe where you can cut them in half and you can fry them. Now that's
And you can braise them as well.
yeah,
Braise them with some meat as well. Yeah, lovely, absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, it is a crunchy you can use as a salad, but that's bitter. I want that sweet, light, refreshing sort of crunch. But I've got a secret. Another test I'm running this year with the Chinese cabbage. I won't give up. I've been doing it now for 10 years, I think. But I've got another secret method I'm trying this year, which I think might do it this time.
Audrey,
Come on.
Were you going to send? Audrey, were you going to? No, I'm not saying send with seeds, but did you pick a certain cabbage?
I am, because I'm collecting a few that are coming in, so I'm going to send them to you three all at once. Because nobody's starting tomatoes again for this year, so I'm just collecting a few seeds and getting them in at the same time. So yes, I am. There is a new, and I think it got delivered today. I haven't seen it yet, but it's a Chinese cabbage that's very thin and grows very tall. And I thought, that just might be a variety that Steve will enjoy growing into the winter.
And
So there'll be some of those in the little packets too. So I've never heard of it before. So I'm like, we'll give it a shot.
No,
Stephen. Was that the Wah Say or something, was it called? Was that it?
Yes.
Yes, that's the one. I've just bought some of them.
This is your secret plan. This is
no. It's I've got a different
but it
secret
plan.
Doesn't
it looks very different, and yet the leaves look very similar. They're just so skinny and very tall. So
it's.
I don't know.
Am I right? I've just mine's went blank there. Is it Chinese cabbage? Is what you make kimchi with? Is that right? Have I got that? Yeah. So that's like another.
I was just watching last night the hairy bikers on the TV, and they were in Korea making kimchi with their Chinese cabbage, and you should have seen this thing. It was huge, great big thing like this. It was like a small barrel, and I thought, okay, rub my nose in it, why don't you?
So, are we saying then, Steve? Because I haven't grown one successfully. Doesn't matter when I've planted it, when I've sown it. Have you getting something like that early on in the year?
Never quite like that. About half the size. Probably about the size of a human head. They will, a really good one will be the size of a human head. But yeah, I mean, you sow them now; they grow happily away. But at this time of the year, I always forget to sow them for the autumn harvest. I'm always concentrating on trying to grow the one for Christmas, so I always forget. But it was the fact that Audrey mentioned in our private chat about these seeds that I thought, good idea. I'll go and sow some now for autumn. So
nice.
I've got
I have about a dozen starting right now, so hoping to plant them out next month.
So Stephen, I've got about 30 bloody fennel plants now, which are about 4 foot. Like, say, what do I do? Can I put them outside, or is it best to plant them in the tunnel for like a wintry thing, or what do I do with these bloody fennel bulb things?
Where are they? Are they in module trays?
They're in the, like I think there's 18 them size ones. It's like I don't know, like that.
All right.
So there's about. I don't know how many, 15, 16. So they're in there at the moment. They're about that high.
Well, as soon as the roots are coming out the bottom, plant them out.
Outside, right.
Outside, yeah.
Yeah, and
You
any
can all, do a Stephen test and plant a couple indoors as well, see what happens.
and any special love I need to be giving them or not or.
No, not that I can think of. Just a bit of bloodfish and bone underneath them and water them.
And
And then get on with it.
when would I expect be pulling them?
Oh, you're never going to pull one.
I'm intending at least, the amount I've got, at least get one bulb. Now
Where are we now? The end of July. I mean, you're going to be looking at about 10 weeks, 10, 12 weeks, I would say.
Right.
So they'll come fairly quick, especially while the weather's warm.
Did you, you must have sown some then through the winter, because I'm sure I've just seen a video, or maybe time flies by, where you had them maybe February or something in the polytunnel or something like that. I'm sure you.
Yeah, I grew them in the polytunnel along with the Chinese cabbage that failed last year's failed attempt, and then I just left them because I normally grow them for Christmas, but I grow them just for the actual the foliage of the plant because it's a nice flavour to go in soups and stews over Christmas.
Mm.
So all I want is, sort of smallish plants, and I snip the leaves off. But they grew over Christmas, and I just couldn't. So I just let them carry on growing. And then after Christmas, they bulbed up wonderful. They were really slow, but I just left them to their own devices, and they carried on.
And what did you do with the bulbs?
Ate them.
Well, I know that, but how did you eat them? How did you cook? How did you prepare them? Any special flavourings or anything like that? 'Cause fennel for me it was a little bit kind of tricky. That's what I'm.
Right. No, not really. I mean, you can use it if you can imagine how you'd cut celery up and use that with meats. So you can fry it, you can boil it, you can poach it, you can steam it. Oh, it's lovely. It's not the smell is stronger than the flavour when you eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice, make like a nice gravy with the meat and all that, and have it all kind of mushed in.
Oh yeah. It's lovely. It's more of an earthy flavour than a sort of an aniseed flavour. It's lovely. You'll love it.
Time flies.
It's really sweet roasted too.
Right.
You just roast it. Yeah.
Just by itself, Audrey.
Yeah, sometimes.
Right. There we go. Well, I've got bloody loads of them.
No, I also grow just leaf fennel just to get the little fronds.
Yeah.
And they're lovely.
Well, Audrey, that was the mistake I nearly made because I picked these up because Steve mentioned you should try fennel. Yeah. You should try fennel. So I went to the garden centre and I'd seen like the actual. It was just like a fennel flower, and I'm thinking, well, Steve showed me this big bloody bulb that was like the size, you know what I mean? There was one rack of seeds. I went, it's a different, or not maybe a different variety, but like a different
fennel altogether.
Yeah,
frond than for the bulb.
Yeah. So I've got them. Well, listen,
and I don't want to mention a mandolin with you, Tony, but they're really good, shaved really thin, and put on a salad raw. But I know you're still recuperating from mandolin use.
I don't know if you can. So, it's hard to kind of see, but there's a bloody straight line on my thumb there. On one side is a
but they are
line.
also very, very good if you make them very thin and put them on a salad raw. They're very good.
Yes. Yeah.
God, I don't know. I'll have to see salad raw. I love salads. God, salads are go to, but fennel.
Well, you don't have to put a lot in. You could just put a wee bit in.
Last question before we get our tips of the week. Jane has just. Hello, Jane. Jane's here. Are any of you visiting the RHS Melvin show in September? Now I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, Audrey, you're not.
I probably am not. That is the correct statement.
Well, I'm not as well. I mean, I haven't been to a show for a long, long time. I think the last one. Where's the Melvin one? Is that down south, JB?
I have no
South
idea.
Wales. Melbourne. It's over towards Wales, isn't it? It's over that direction.
The last one I visited was an RHS one, but it was with me mum again. But it was in Scotland.
Wow.
I can't remember which one. God, it was a long, long time ago. Did you go to any shows, JB?
No, I was gonna say I've literally never been to a single show, and I've not really ever been to any formal gardens or anything like that either. It's one of those things that's just not really on my radar.
But JB, you are I would say the kind of, what's the best way to describe it? The YouTube pin-up boy of the gardening world. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, I mean, it used to be this fella, but he's had to give up his crown. You know what I mean? It's kinda... So have you never been to like a garden show, JB? Nothing like that? Never?
Literally nothing. Literally nothing. I've got the what there's RHS Wisley is fairly close to me as well. And in fact, I used to work like on a nature conservation site just next door from there. But it's never been, like I say, it's never been on my radar. It's never felt like something that would kind of welcome me or interest me. But as the seasons have gone on since I got into allotmenting, it's definitely something I'd at least like to give a go.
Well, I guess if you turned up,
recommendations?
I guess if you turned up to a show, JB, the crowds would stop for you. You know what I mean? It'd be like,
yeah, they'd be flocking around.
He'd have to be wearing his calendar outfit, though, I think.
yes. I wish I had.
That's the bloody point.
Yeah, I wish I had that on there.
When is it? I don't even know when it is. There's a few nice offers in the chat, so I might go to one. There's a few chili fests this year that I do want to go to, because it just makes sense.
Yeah, you just got to. Before we go and get into our tips of the week, don't forget, join our Patreon. That would be fantastic. There's links in the live chat, and there's a link in the description as well. And come over. We will be moving over lock, stock, and barrel in probably 2 weeks' time to our new channel as well. So that will be fantastic. Tips of the week. Stephen, I'll kick off with you this week, sir. Your tip of the week.
Well, as I've been caught out with it today, I can only talk about staking and tying your plants in. We had some freak wind, which we don't normally have at this time of year. Normally we start to get it around September, and it's knocked a lot of my sunflowers over and a few of my other plants as well. If I'd been ready and sort of ready for September, they would have all been tied in and supported. So it's a good tip at the minute is to make sure things like roses and clematis and what have you, all your plants are tied in as they should be. Get on it now before the wind hits later in the year, if it hasn't hit you already.
What is it? Pretty bad the damage, is it, Steve?
I mean, it's no, it's not bad, but I mean, out of about 40 sunflowers, I think I've lost about a third of them, and some of my other flowers that were in bloom at the front of the plot have all been flattened. I mean, I'll still get some pickings off them, and they might regrow a little bit. I don't know. And some of me other flowers at the back have been flattened as well. It's not life-changing. It's just annoying. Just as it was all coming to its full vibrancy.
I know. That's it's normally the bloody case as well, mind, isn't it? You know what I mean? You kind of, my garden's just about it, and then you turn up another day and you think, oh,
have a hailstorm or something. Exactly.
Now, them sunflowers are JBs. And they don't seem that very big, JB. The chili plants look bigger.
Yeah, nearly. Yeah, they're only in a little pot. But,
right.
It's my attempt.
No, that's good. That's good. What you did send, and I haven't used it yet, JB, because we know we're going to keep taking the mickey out your 4 tomato plants. But that's impressive. Come on, that's impressive.
It is.
Yeah.
We're getting some nice trusses now.
Yes, that's. I think that actually deserves JB a little. For the kids. Audrey, have you got yourself a tip of the week yet?
No, but here's what I think I will say, because this is where I am right now, is spring was a really weird time. So much of what I was hoping to get moving along and growing didn't like the hot, cold, wet, not wet. So I'm kind of reseeding everything. And I'm going to give it another go here, like next month. So I guess if you're feeling behind, or if you're feeling like spring was a bust, give it another go. Like try again. Even some of my cabbage that didn't do well, I stripped all the leaves. We still used it. It wasn't a beautiful cabbage head, but we used it. But I would love to get some cauliflower and broccoli this year. So I'm just reseeding all of it.
Just out of
Oh,
curiosity,
nice.
just before Jimmy, just before getting yours, I found in the hut. Now, this Steve, I'm kind of aiming towards you for this question. I found some onion sets that I obviously have put away and forgot about. The fine. Could I put them in and get an onion this year?
oh gosh, there might be small onions. I don't know. It's a bit dodgy, but I'm still sowing spring onions, and they will grow before.
Well, that's the thing that I was going to do. Just plant them close together in a little square foot kind of thing, and go for spring onions. But when we've been talking here, I was thinking, well, if you can grow anything, I wonder if you could get an onion. What would actually stop that onion growing then?
Well, it's normally day length onions is day length sensitive, aren't they?
Yeah, you'd have trouble getting a bulb, I think, at this point.
Just purely
Because you're
because of the amount of light.
You're already past kind of when they start to bulb.
No,
But you can try. You might just get nice little ones.
They'll grow a nice straight stem. I'm sure you'll get some spring onions.
Yeah.
No, I've got the ideal spot for some spring
because
onions.
They probably wouldn't store till next year, would they?
No, I'm sure I've found they'll just go like holler, like this kind of disintegrating.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's probably better just to get them in and see what they do.
Now somebody's got 3 tips. He's got 3 tips to
I'm
choose.
only doing one.
Yeah.
I can't afford to do all 3.
No. But he's like, anything, he can just pick his mind. JB, what's your tip of the week, sir?
Okay, number 1 is chili peppers related, as always. And it's about isolating your flowers. So now is the right time of year to be thinking about it if you've not done it already. So if you've got a plant that you really love and you want to grow next year from seed, you want to isolate those flowers to ensure that it doesn't cross-pollinate with your nearby chilies, because otherwise you'll get a kind of mystery seed next year. It will cross-pollinate. And the easiest way to do that is to go on eBay or Amazon. Steve, you're making a lot of noise, my friend.
He's writing something.
I'm sorry.
You got your notebook out. He's taking notes for all the chili peppers he loves to grow. So yeah, the easiest way to do it is to go out and get an organza bag. They're normally for wedding favors or decorations or that kind of thing. But they're these tiny little mesh bags. The holes are tiny. You will actually want to get quite a big bag and just kind of slot that over your flowers, over your stem. And that will stop any kind of insects, and it should stop a lot of the cross-pollination. It's not perfect, but it's probably like 90% effective. And then you want to mark off those peppers when they come to fruition. I tie a little bit of string around mine, and then I know when I harvest, I put that in a separate pile, and that's my seed for next year if it's a pepper I really love.
Now, you could have just said a bag, but you had to say organza bag.
You know what I mean? If it's not breathable, your stuff will just rot. So if you put a plastic bag around it, your fruit will rot and you won't get viable seed.
What about a paper bag? Brown paper bag?
Maybe. That might get a bit moist in like a humid greenhouse or something. So kind of mesh bags, I think, work.
Waitrose would not do that, would they?
No, God, no. You'd be fine with a Waitrose bag. Actually, you'd probably be fine with that if you made a little bag. Yeah, well, I think what time we got there, I think that could be wrap today's show up. 1 hour, 20 minutes nearly. Listen,
wow.
I know, it just flies.
It
does fly, yeah.
Yeah, so a big thank you
to
everyone.
Can I just say something? Can I just say something before we go? We were talking about the cauliflowers and you were having a crack at me earlier in the year because mine were rubbish.
And mine were fantastic.
And yours were fantastic. Well, the guy next door to me, the allotment, the next plot over, has not been very well this year. And I went into his plot today and into his polytunnel to check if anything needs doing. And I've seen 6 of the biggest bloody cauliflowers in his polytunnel there. and he hasn't done bugger all with them. He's barely even watered them, so they thrive on neglect. Just wanted to say that. That's all.
Yeah, Steve,
I'm
you
gonna
see,
give him a kick in.
that just throws in the face of everything we kind of know, because you would expect they need water, and if you're not, the polytunnel's going to be bone dry, parched, dust, sand.
That's unbelievable.
I give
Absolutely
up.
unbelievable.
There's no rules. I want some rules. I want some basic rules to follow in
You'll get
gardening.
none.
I don't like this kind of, well, you know what I mean? See how it goes.
You should have married Mother Nature. You'd have got rules then.
Listen, big thank to everybody in the chat. Sorry we didn't get your questions. Do pop in next week. We'll be here and we'll try and get through to them. That will be fantastic. Big thank you to my guest, Stephen. Green Side Up. Let me just put on. Do pop over to Green Side Up there and subscribe to
look at
subscribe to Steve's channel. We've got Audrey there on Our Real Food Comes Dirty. And
she's doing well.
Our pin-up gardener.
Hey. It is shorts.
Yes, I know.
Oh, yes.
Ladies, gents, behave yourselves. Right. Right. Take good care, everyone. See you later.
Bye-bye, everyone. Have a
Bye-bye,
good week.
everyone.
Ta-ra now.